welcome to my stream. Hopefully you can all hear me. You can post a little chat to say yes you can hear me, so don't start talking for 30 minutes and no one actually hears me. I'm sorry for the delay in the start. There must have been something wrong with the stream. I started exactly at 4 p.m. but I was watching it on another screen and it was taking forever, so I typed a few bits of text. So welcome to this broadcast. It's going to be about the third-person control system, which I don't think we've covered so far, and a little bit about scaling as well, just to show you how I do scaling when I'm doing Game Guru games. And so what I want to show you right away is what I mean by third-person control system, because you may actually not have seen it before. So if I run the software, the all too familiar Game Guru, the only tool that I know that'll let you create a full 3D game in less than 30 minutes. And I'll show you how easy it is to create a third-person control system. If I just run the game now, blank game, just run test game, what you're mostly used to by default is first-person control system. So what you see is this. The idea that you are first person, you're looking at the game from a first person perspective. So you don't see your legs, your arms, you don't see your head, you're looking through your own eyes. Now what you can do is make it third person, and the way you do that is very simple. The software can figure this out for you. Just drop in a start marker, a player start marker, like so. And then all you've got to do is pick one of the special characters. We keep them in characters fantasy right now. Only works with these 3 characters simply because we wanted to continue working on the third person animations. So these characters are slightly different than the other characters you may find, like the soldiers and the rocket launcher guys and the zombies and barbarians and things. These guys have extra animations for things like jump and duck. Something that you didn't really need the enemies to do when we was doing the AI. So that's why only these are selected. But eventually we'll be able to add all characters. So this is how you do it. We'll select the evil wizard and click OK. And as usual, you can drop this down into the world and you can shoot and all this kind of stuff. But if you drag it over the start marker and click, it associates the character with the start marker. And what that tells the engine is, I want to control that character and play it as the player, play it as me. So now if I click start, test game, sorry, you're now going to see a character. But here's the great thing, if I press the W key to walk forward, I am that character, and that character is me, and I can jump. So that's how easy it is to create a third-person game. And before I go any further, what I want to do is create a little third-person game today. That's what I'm going to do. Before I go any further, I got an email only today, only like an hour ago, from Synchromesh, and I was really impressed by it. So I'm going to make it a feature of my my blog, actually. So we'll go full screen and keep the volume high. I couldn't believe it. Scratching my head for a while actually, how was that even possible? Because you'll notice the character is actually centered on the little screen, which makes it look like you've changed the 3D viewport to only fit inside that sort of subset of the screen. There is no command to do that in Game Guru. There isn't. That's something else. That's some other technique. And the only people that's going to get this are people who are 8-bit users who've been playing computer games since Pong. It's basically the status menus and screen of one of the last Ninja games, and one of my favourite games actually. In fact, probably is my favourite from that era. Obviously, more games since. But it shows you from what I was running to this one that you can actually change the perspective and do lots of clever things, and I leave it up to you to decide exactly how the smeg that was done, but that is absolutely cool as hell. So I'll just stop that for a sec and then go back to Game Guru. Now our mission isn't to create that. That was just so awesome. But what I will show you is how to get started. You want to create something like that, a third person perspective where the camera is sort of on high or behind you, and then you're running around defeating bad guys. So I'm going to give you a little whistle-stop tour. So we've got our third-person character, it's the wizard, and as you saw in the video, firing firebolts. That's the default weapon of the wizard. He casts magic spells. He only knows one spell right now, and that's the fireball spell, so he uses that to great effect. But there's actually something you can do to improve that spell, and I'll show you that first, really, as I'm talking about it. It's from the Fantasy Pack, so this is one of the DLCs that you can get with Game Guru. It's certainly not required to have this when you're doing your third-person games, but some of the entities have been pre-configured to fit well. For example, if I go to collectibles and look for a rune, so let's say we pick this red rune here, and then we zoom in, so we can get a little bit closer to our starting position, and then I drop down, say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 runes. No, let's go crazy. Let's have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, lots of runes. Like that. And just so we know where we are, I do really like to scorch the terrain with where I'm starting and maybe a path to collect all that, and then you're supposed to get, say, to this altar of stone or something. Now if I run that, in fact I'll just have something to shoot, so whilst we're at it, I know I'm on several subjects at the same time, but I'm sure it's all pretty entertaining. If I go to static, select that. It was someone asked about scaling. Well, we have a widget system, so if you click and you go to scale, you can actually change the widget gadgets. That's position because it's on arrows, rotation have these sort of orbits, and then scale have these three things, which is basically X, Y, and Z, and then the white is universal scale. So I could stretch the chest just in one direction, but it kind of would look a little bit weird. And then the white will allow you to change all three axes at the same time, and then if you wanted to, you could. But really, the only reason I'm doing this is to sort of show you, what you can shoot at, so it actually hits something. Because I'm going to use all these for something really special. I'm going to reveal that later. But if you've got any more questions on scaling and exactly how to do that, then fire away. I don't think there's any other way to scale right now. You can certainly rotate with hotkeys, but because scale is a very specific thing, we decided to put it on the widget instead. So now we're going to run this as and just to make sure that I'm paranoid enough, test 0, 1. Always like to save my levels, even if it's just something throwaway like this. So we go to test game. And the idea is, as you may not have seen because I didn't actually fire the staff, my magic is this fireball. And so that's what you use to defeat all the enemies you may encounter. But what runes do, I'll collect a few of them, is make the fireball bigger. So as you can see, you can affect this spell by making it more powerful. Until it gets ridiculously big. I don't think I actually put a cap on how big the fireball gets. And also the fireball deals more damage the bigger it is, as you might expect. And of course there is a lower script that controls all that, so it's entirely up to you what you do with it. And of course we'll be able to add more characters to the third person mode and have more spells, so not just a staff but maybe a wand, or just some magical orb or a magical cloak that will imbibe you with some more special powers. So that gives you a quick idea as to the weaponry involved with the wizard and how it looks from a third person perspective. But we want to create a little game, and as you know, games have three main ingredients. You have the beginning, which we've sorted out to great effect. I probably will get rid of some of these power-ups. Then you have various adversities along the way. So let's say these stone places are where you're going to encounter some bad guys, and then maybe the last one is the exit where you'd actually win. So as you may know from previous sessions, there's a special marker to denote the end of the game, which is called win zone. So you just drag that in, and then you can modify its boundaries, so just make sure we cover all of that. Now, a stain on the ground isn't necessarily enough to indicate that that is actually the end of the game, and patches on the ground doesn't really denote any sort of obstacles to overcome during the game. So we're going to create some scenery. So whilst I just do that, and I've got a few things to choose from, like these walls are great because you can confine the game to where you want. So whilst I'm doing that, which can be quite a boring process to watch, I'll have a quick look and see if there's any question marks on the messages. I just have to scroll up first. So I have to stop what I'm doing for a second. Awesome. I changed the camera. So I have no idea how he changes the camera to that exact perspective to sort of reproduce Last Ninja. But I will show you those parameters because there's quite a few you can actually choose from. And I can actually do that. It's pretty cool. Oh, right, Synchromesh is in the house. So he can respond to all questions relating to that demo. But I will actually demonstrate it before I completely forget. So let me just move these walls a bit close together. Always a good idea when you're designing levels that if it's one of these sort of linear track things, anyone used to console games will be completely familiar with the idea of cornering your guy into a single track that you just have to follow to the end. Then you get a nice little story sequence and then you move on to the next thing. I know that's a bit of a generalization and a wrong one at that, but I've just finished playing a 2011 game called Crisis 2, and it was very much this. It was just following a track from beginning to end with enemies that you destroy in between. I'm going to just make this a little bit better by putting a wall in there and then a wall in there, so it separates those two battlegrounds, and then one final one here. So obviously the paths look ridiculous now, so we can hold down shift. If you hold down shift and then left click, it removes path. So if you didn't know how that was achieved, that's how you do it. And then just a regular left click, leave the shift alone, and you can connect it properly up and then reach the end. So there you go, that's how you do it. But like I say, now I'm going to show you the perspective, but first of all I'll do a quick save. And then I'm going to go into what's called properties, entity properties. So if you was hovering over your start marker and then you select the this icon, which means you're back in entity mode, and then let's just zoom in, get a bit closer, and then go to properties, which is there. You'll notice here at the bottom there's a section called third person. And third person controls all the fields that we've exposed right now. Now I want to make a little comment about Game Guru of the future. We're not really happy about hard coding these properties. They're very handy, you can change them very quickly and you can achieve lots of results. But what we feel is the right thing to do is to expose this as Lua script. So instead of us hard coding the camera and the collision for the camera and how it smooths out as it follows you around the game, and any other attributes of the control system, like if you press a key what happens, rather than us deciding that and then hard coding it in the engine, we're going to expose it as Lua script. Now obviously we have to wait until the voting board brings that feature or something very close to it to the top of the list, and then we'll be able to implement it. So even though this is all you can see now, camera locked, camera distance, X, Y and offsets, focus and speed, run mode and show reticule, or reticle, however you want to spell it or pronounce it, when we've actually finished it will just be Lua script. So you can invent your own properties, you can do anything you want, but we'll still expose these fields as, say, common fields, and you would still be able to edit them WYSIWYG style. So you'll just be able to go into the editor, move some sliders or something, and then be able to change these properties without having to even touch Lua script. So you'll be able to create an entire game very customized without ever looking at a single script. So we'll still expose this, probably some more, but ultimately you'll be able to go into a Lua script and then hack away at the control system itself, so you don't have to restrict yourself to these. That's to head off any questions about are there going to be any more features than this. Yes, every single feature in the form of scripting. So camera locked, if you just click it, it gives you a brief description. Fixes camera height and angle for third person view. Right now it's quite flexible, so it kind of moves around with you. Camera distance, now this is something I can demonstrate quite easily because I think I've tied it into the visual. It's currently at 200 units behind the character. If I set it to 600 and then clicked on another field, it zooms out 600. Now of course it's zoomed out so far that the wall is now in the way. So how would you solve that in a situation where you wanted to see the character from that far away? Well, there's another value called Y offset, which is how far up the camera needs to be. Now it's currently 100 units off the ground based on the character's ground position, and there's some jiggery poker about camera collision, but I won't bore you with that, but you'll certainly find out once you get the script in the future. If I set it to 300, it moves the relative offset of the camera based on the character up to 300 units. Now we can slightly see it. If we go up even further, let's make that 600. So now we're exactly 45 degrees looking down at our character, and hooray, we can see the character again. And it might resemble The Last Ninja a little bit now, so you know we're achieving something similar. Camera speed is how quickly this camera will move and follow you. Currently it's a nice tight 50, but we can change that. I'll show you that a little bit. Actually no, I'll show you now. It's currently 50. Let's increase that value by a factor of 5 just to see what happens. Run mode. If you set to yes, the protagonist uses wasted movement mode. Now, it's very subtle that, but I can show you what that means. And reticule is that little crosshair on the screen. You can have that displayed or not displayed. Some people don't like it, so you can hide that one. So I'll just show you the camera speed first, and then we'll come back and have a look at run mode. So if I click apply changes, and of course save, and then test game, and now we're at oh yes, you'll notice you've still got this business. Now remember that first one, camera lock? Well, that's what that is not using. For example, right now I have the height and the distance, but it's also using this sort of look around sort of tracky thing rather than tracking the character. So if I switch the lock on, so again I click on properties and say lock yes, it's now going to strictly obey the distance and the Y offset. Now you must, this is absolutely live and unrehearsed. So, and the last time I changed these values were many moons ago. My head is now filled with DirectX 11 and all and sundry. But there you go, I am correct. As you can see, it keeps the height. I can move the mouse up and down all I want. Nothing really happens. And just for sanity's sake, I made sure that in this mode you fire straight ahead of you. Because if you was actually firing based on your look angle, you'd be constantly firing at your own feet, and if it was a particularly powerful spell, you might blow your face off. So we made sure that that was possible to do that. And of course everything else still remains the same. A massive fireball if you want. And so it's very tough to see the actual camera speed. I'm going to have to do some really exaggerated values, but it is pretty cool. If I set it to that, which should be ridiculous. Now the camera speed initially was implemented to do the camera collision system, which allows you to sort of so in fixed mode speed isn't needed because it's an immediate response to where your mouse is moving, and you really don't want the camera to lag when your mouse is moving around. I think the speed is more relation to the collision system, which only really kicks in when the lock is off. And you've got some sensible values like, say, 300. 300, does that look about right? No, let's put that to about 200. Okay, so we're going to be in a situation now where this bit of wall might block our view of the camera. So let's keep speed at some ridiculous value, 25,000, and then run test game again. So we've got a clever camera system again, but if we try and do this, it's super quick. I mean, look at the adjustment there. It's boing, ding, ding. And if you go to camera speed of, say, 1, we'll look at the difference. No, let's say 2. Of course, egg's going to be on my face if there is actually no difference. And what that means is I have not a clue what camera speed is going to do for me in this particular case. Yeah, it looks about the same behaviour actually. So I'll tell you what camera speed was. There was a system whereby if you went round a corner like this, it would actually do something. Ah, there it is. That's what camera speed does. You see how it's pulling back really slowly? That's what it controls. So obviously you want to see, as soon as you move by an obstacle, you want to see exactly where you are so you know if there's an enemy to shoot. But as you get out of the way of that obstacle, the camera speed controls how long it takes to pull back. Small value being very slow, big value being very quick. And of course you might have seen that reticule as well, and you can switch that off at your leisure. Camera focus sets the camera X angle offset. Right, there's a game, some of you may know, it's called Grand Theft Auto 5, and the reticule is offset, so the camera is kind of leaning on the shoulder almost, it's off to one side, and you can actually control that now. If I set that to something ridiculous, might be ridiculous by 30, but I've just switched the reticule off, so it's going to be harder to figure out what the centre of the screen might be, so I'll switch that one back on. Also, this constant need to click apply changes. I don't know whether everybody likes that feature or not. I'm kind of leaning towards a system where you don't need to keep doing that in one of our UI updates when it gets voted for. So, it looks like my offset is completely ridiculous. Yeah, I'm probably like, I can't even see myself because it's sort of like out of the view of the camera. So I might need to put that value to something a bit sensible. Maybe it was already set. Yeah, if I set it to 0, I think that is when the head gets in the way of the reticule, which is what the this camera shift is about. Right. Okay, I've just realised, actually, see the reticule is slightly offset from where the player's head is. That's the last property that I've not revealed, it's this one. Camera offset X, of course. So 0 would make it absolutely straight on, as you can see in the preview there, as we just adjusted. So click apply changes, run. And I must apologise, you're not getting much of a game out of this. Currently it's just just choosing the perfect perspective. So now you can see the reticule, the little dot, is exactly above where the head is of the character, and that's what the camera X offset parameter does. So without further ado, let's make a little bit of a game before we run out of time. We've got a few minutes left. So let's say we drop that in there, and we hide our character at the beginning. Press the R key, you can rotate to know which direction you start, and then we can have some enemies. So just to mix it up a little bit, let's put in some irregular characters, maybe somebody with a shotgun. Who's got the shotgun? Here we go. I know it's completely incongruous that you've got modern day guys against some wizard, but that's the cool thing, isn't it, about making a game? It's entirely up to you what you do. And just so you know you've actually won the game and people understand this is where you win the game, just make sure that you can't sneak past the win zone, otherwise people will wonder why they can't actually finish the game. So we'll just move that there, so as soon as you cross, and what we'll do is have some treasure. So if we pick a collectible, and let's say you can win lots of treasure chests. There you go, that's how you win the game. And just to make it extra special, we'll put a nice glowing yellow light and make it big. Sorry, it's plus now, isn't it? We changed the key over to plus to make it consistent. So we'll put 2 of those in to make it nice and bright. And there's my little game. So like every good story, a beginning, the middle, where you have to defeat your foes, and then a reward at the end. And then, as you may know from a previous broadcast, if you actually set that win zone to the name of another level, and then you create that level, so let's say you called it Mr. Blob 2, and you wrote that into the particular field. I'll actually show you which field it is whilst I'm talking about it. If used, if you put something like Freddy 2 and then clicked apply changes and then actually created a level called freddy2.fpm, when you do your standalone, instead of it just completing the game, it would load that level. So you've got a 2-level standalone game. So that's how you can create multi-level games. So I didn't save. I always like to save, so I didn't do that, so naughty me. Also save under different file names, just in case you end up going down one direction, you don't like it, you want to go back to an earlier state, you have lots of versions of your level on record. So we're going to have to do this pretty quick. So hopefully one fireball should do it. Yeah, if I hit them. There you go. Teach them a lesson. Wizard versus Soldier. Wizard 1. Wizard 2. Soldiers 0. Well, actually, I think they actually have 1-2 as well. So I think even Stevens now. 2 for 2. Now, I know another thing, you want to pick up the shotgun and use the shotgun in third person. Absolutely. Once we have support for all the other characters in third person mode, it's natural you'd want to do that. For example, you want to be running around with the shotgun guy, shooting wizards, for example. So, remember there's an invisible wind zone, so we cross that. And then you get that with level complete triggered. So you get a little bit of text. Now in test mode, it doesn't leave the level, it lets you carry on and test and check your geometry and stuff like that. However, in standalone mode, it would fade out and say, congratulations, you've won the game. Or if you've chained another level to it, it would load level 2, level 3, level 4, so on and so forth. And because you can specify which level you jump to, it's non-linear. You could have one gate that takes you to level 3, but another gate that takes you to level 6. And then 6 might take you to 3, with a gate that chains those together. So you can create non-linear paths through your multi-level experience. And I've only just scratched the surface. As you saw in the Fantasy Pack, there's lots of assets, but all games pretty much have the same kind of recipe. You start at one point, you have to get to another point, and you put lots of obstacles and lovely scenery and challenges along the way. So that's exactly 30 minutes. I've hit my goal. I'm now going to look at the chat to see if there's any questions that anybody has. Any questions about this, any questions about scaling, any questions about anything to do with Game Guru, I'm quite happy to answer. So let me just jump back into the editor so you can bask at the glory of my level. I'm just going to save it because it's a habit. So I'll just switch over to quite an extensive chat. Looks like you've been chatting away, which is cool. At the most says good evening. So are you advertising Game Guru here? Always, yes. We're a very small company. We have no marketing budget whatsoever. So we advertise our stuff by showing what we're doing. We show you progress of what we're developing at the time. We like to exhibit games that have been created by community members, and so we could put them on our gallery and point them to websites which just show downloads so you can play some games. And this is one of our other ideas, the idea that we can run a Twitch broadcast every Wednesday at 4 PM, whether it's me talking or whether it's Ravy, who's been taking it for the last 4 weeks and did a sterling job, by the way. But I figured it was my turn, so that's why I'm here talking about Game Guru. And we will continue it for as long as the community thinks it's a good idea. And right now, we've not really had any negative responses to it. And the user count keeps growing every week. So, sounds like it's a good idea and we're going to keep doing it. Plus, it gives us a large repository of advice in video form. So every time we finish a Twitch session, we encode it and put it on YouTube and we number it. And then we title what each broadcast was about. So anytime you want to go back in time or learn some particular feature, just look through the list of broadcast sessions that we created. And over the time, as we get to hundreds and maybe even thousands of broadcasts, there'll be pretty much a talk on practically every subject relating to Game Guru, which should enlighten. If you're in the dark about a particular subject, we've probably talked about it and then demonstrated it in the video. So I think it's a pretty cool idea, and I'm happy to continue doing it. It's only an hour or so out of each week, and it gives so much back. So I think it's a cool idea. Synchromesh offering more advice on the particular settings that were used to do the last Ninja demo. So that's pretty cool that he's advertised that. So you want to recreate that, you can do. Um, yes, at the most, it is absolutely a live stream. It can be proved because I've just responded to your question live. Any other questions? I'm just reading through the chat, so sorry if there's any silences. Demonix, good question. Is it easy to build some levels, but is it possible to customize all? Not easy. You kind of can. I mean, our goal in the Game Guru development team is to allow you to customize everything, but make it super, super simple. But that's not to say you can't customize everything right now. All the files of Game Guru are well exposed. If you've got any programming experience, you've only got to delve into this folder, the files folder, to realize you can pretty much change every asset. Everything from the HUDs that you'll find in Language Bank through to the shaders. If you want to change the shaders, you can do that. If you want to change the graphics, the models, the textures, you'll find those in the Entity Bank. If you wanted to change the floor, how the terrain looks, the textures for the floor, use the Sky Bank to change the sky. The sound effects from Audio Bank, you can change everything. Totally customizable. And we have some guides out there. I mean, we have a few in here in the docs folder, which gives you some simple ideas how to get started customizing the more aggressive stuff. But really our goal, our mission statement, is to make customizing easy from this point of view, from the point of view of the editor. So all you've got to do is click on something, fiddle around with some sliders, import some graphics, you know, grab things from here, grab things from there, drop them into the scene, and it just works. That's our ultimate goal. We're very early days yet with Game Guru, but we'll be here for years. So if you want to see that evolve and have a part in deciding which one we do next, then absolutely pitch in. We have a voting board. You can vote for your most favourite next feature, and as soon as we finish the performance work, which is going extremely well, then we're going to pick whatever's at the top of the voting board, and that's going to be implemented, and we will keep doing that until there's no features left in the voting board. So yeah, you can customize it all now, but we're working on making it customizable for everybody else as we add feature after feature. Just going to scroll down the list a little bit more. Keith says these Twitch streams are great. Thank you very much. Happy to assist. And very easily understandable, not mumbling or anything. I think that's the at the most who's complimenting me on my non-mumbling fashion. That's because I like to talk. In fact, it's probably a good idea that these Twitch sessions have been reduced from 1 hour to half an hour, because otherwise I'd probably end up talking for 2 hours. Just as in fact I've just gone past the 30-minute mark. I'm now 6 minutes over budget. But as long as there's questions, I'm still happy to answer. There's no strict diet which says you have to stick to 30 minutes. Vanna, who's also a member of our Game Guru team, would like to learn a little bit more about performance, because I keep pretty much everyone in the dark. Only Ravi and I know exactly what's going on. What I can reveal is that right now, our internal version, we've completely converted the engine to C++. It's all C++. Primarily what that means is we're now using the Visual Studio 2015 compiler to compile the engine. And that particular compiler has some very clever ideas about how to optimize code and speed things up. We've set the optimization level to maximum when we run the compiler. So we're running what we had before, barring a few tweaks, but now it's running with these optimized settings. Now, Ravi had mixed results when he was doing his performance tests, but I actually took the latest version off him, run it on my mid-range. He's got a crazy fast machine. I ran it on my mid-range machine, and I saw consistent and sizable frame rate increases across the board. That's everything from a blank level to the biggest level we've got, which I'm calling Morning Mountain Stroll, because it's absolutely huge and compressed. It's a spiral based level which crams a lot into a small space, and I actually got some pretty cool and we haven't even done any optimizations yet. This is just running it in clean C++, and we got a performance improvement. We've also got, because we're now in Visual Studio, full debugging and profiling capabilities. So we can drill down to any part of the code instantly now. It makes bug fixing a pleasure. for the first time in probably 3 years. In other news, I have been playing around with DirectX 11, looking at a lot of white papers, and I bet you're wondering, what has DirectX 11 got to do with performance? Well, the good news is DirectX 11 allows a few extra things to be done on the GPU, freeing the CPU from its burdens to process all the various things the game requires. And one of them is the reduction in draw calls, which is the single most expensive thing that our engine is doing bad right now. For example, if you took a tree, and I shall select a tree to demonstrate, nothing like a visual demonstration. Let's take this one, which is appropriate, and I drop one tree into the scene. That's fine. Our engine can handle that, no problem, all day long. But if I added in 4 more, we're doing 5 draw calls now for those 5 trees. In DirectX 11, there's something called instance buffers, which allow us to same do 1 draw call, but still draw 5 trees. Because the instance buffer describes where those trees go. It says, well, don't draw 5 trees, just tell me what 1 tree looks like, and then tell me where I draw the other 4. And then it draws those as well. It's actually very clever. It's the single biggest boost we're probably going to see, because we will obliterate draw calls. And the reason I say that, because if you think about how people create Game Guru levels, for example, look at these walls. It's the same wall. Wall, 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 all the way around. Instead of that being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Instead of that being 20 draw calls, it's 1 draw call. 1 draw call. That reduces the burden on the CPU. The GPU is happy because it's got plenty of things to get on with. The habit is for people to drop down the same object a lot. I've got lots of crates there, and so you can imagine 80% of the time, Game Guru levels that take on this idea of putting duplicate items down will benefit from the instance buffer. And that's just one of many examples that DirectX 11 is going to bring to the party. And so we've divided our efforts. Rave is going to work on the CPU, multi-threading, optimizing existing architectures, for example, shuffling all the AI onto another thread so it runs in parallel to the main processing. And I'm going to focus on DirectX 11, making sure that when we do the update, your game doesn't suddenly change and look completely different. It will look identical or look better. Certainly will never look worse, because that's a very important thing for me to make sure I'm not breaking people's existing projects. But what you will get, thanks to DirectX 11, is that boost in speed, that better use of the GPU, and a cleaner scene graph. So, and I'll be blogging every day about my progress, so you just have to go to the main Game Guru forum, the website, and find out my blog. It's in the top bar. So I'm just going to read through. Lee is cursed with being a likeable guy. You probably wouldn't say that he was joining us on our morning calls. Apparently I'm Mr. Grumpy for the first 20 minutes of the call. Maybe it's because I only got up like 10 minutes previous to that, but who knows. Anyway, I'm just going to have a bit of a read through, see if there's any other burning questions. Will there be a Twitch stream on App Game Kit 2? That was asked by At The Most. Great idea, brilliant idea. And I don't want to be disrespectful, but the genius I should say, who works on AGK2, who works tirelessly and produces an enormous amount of stuff, isn't the most talkative creature on planet Earth. And were we to ask him to do a 30-minute Twitch session every week on AGK, I have no idea what that would result in. I think I'm morbidly curious, but I'm also sensible enough to know that people are best placed doing what they're best at. And Paul is best at working on AGK and making it the best down cross-platform programming language that exists. And if I were to distract him with these other ideas, like would you like to do video sessions and blogs and all the rest of it, we would just take longer to get AGK2 to a state of perfection. So great idea, but we'd need to find somebody else. Perhaps someone from the AGK community would like to volunteer. We'd absolutely enjoy setting it up for them and then broadcasting it and making it official. after we've done a few trial runs, of course. So if anyone's interested, yeah, absolutely throw your hands up. We'd like to organise that. But no, the main programmer, we're locking him in a dungeon with some program and a computer, and then letting him out until he's actually finished. And that's just the way it is. It seems like I have to keep scrolling up, because as soon as somebody posts a new message on the chat, it goes back to the bottom. So I need to find my place. Okay. Yeah, the voting board has just been posted on the chat. I don't think you actually get the chat transcript on the Twitch replay, and you certainly don't get it in the YouTube channel. It'd be great if we could get the entire transcript and then add it to, say, the comment section of the YouTube. I don't know whether there's any character limits on that, so it'd be pretty cool. But yeah, if you actually are joining us live, there is actually a link button which will take you straight to the voting board. So check out the features we're going to be adding in the future, and if you see something, or if you don't see something that you want to see, add it to the bottom, and then it will go into a little pot. We'll discuss it internally, and then combine it with maybe some other features, and it becomes a feature on the feature board. So your feature can live, and then other people can vote on it, and then maybe you can get it to the top. You do a little PR campaign for your feature and get it to oust some of the other items that are at the top of the list. Just reading through the list, I've got a few more things to read, and then I think I can close down on this broadcast. Question, yes. I can't pronounce it very well, but I'm going to give it a go. Oneros. I think we all know. First off, hello. Now, question, of course. Will the new version still use only X file, that's the DirectX file format, as the entity format, or will it give us a wider selection? Good question. The way I've been looking at DirectX right now, it's pretty invasive. It's not going to be a quick hack where I just sprinkle some DirectX 11 functions in place of the DX9 stuff and then all's forgiven. I'm actually rewriting the scene graph and large quantities of everything that relates to it, and that goes all the way up to loading in the models in the first place. The thing is, we have to support Xfile because we have nearly 6,000 assets on our game store that all have X files. We have 1,000 assets that come with Game Guru core version that use X files, and probably a few more thousand assets sprinkled across the DLCs. And I'm not really up for the job of replacing all that content from all over those different places. And of course the third-party stuff that's being produced outside of the official sort of scope, people creating entities and giving them away off their own website. So we'll definitely continue to support Xfile, the DirectX file format, even if that's going to be a real head-scratcher, especially if I start looking at a DirectX solution that comes from a different direction, that doesn't necessarily support the Xfile format. And by that I mean, one of the things I'll be doing in the DirectX conversion is dropping support for what's called D3DX, which is an extension library that was given to early versions of DirectX, but it was subsequently reduced and depreciated, and now it's actually recommended you don't use it and you use your own stuff or your own libraries, because you have to install extra redistributables when you redist your game. Whereas if you just support the pure DirectX 11, your game will run on a fresh copy of Windows 7 and up. That's the beauty of it, you see. You just have to install the operating system, then your game will instantly run. No redists required, which I thought was pretty cool. So that's something that I want to do for the DirectX 11. And the D3DX isn't included in that core support network. So I'm going to have to write an Xfile parser. And whilst I'm at it, the opportunity might arise to support other formats. I think something like OBJ, and I think there's something called M. I was looking at the different examples, the samples I can cut and paste from, and there were one or two other formats that I might get for free, so you could actually just load them in immediately as soon as this new version goes out. But the big burning question, you probably want to learn about things like Collada and FBX. Those are the big ones. Those are the power formats, the ones that allow you to export from any modeler into Game Guru. And so in terms of the next big format, And again, that will be in the voting board, so people have to vote for it before we do a single line of code in this direction. It will be the Collada or FBX, I'm pretty sure of that. But we'll certainly detail it in the features board as soon as we get some recommendations in that direction. So hopefully that answers it, the long and the short answer. And Ravi's got a question mark, and before the question mark it's on iRos. I've no idea what he's talking about. I think that's code for Lee, please stop talking. You've exceeded your 30 minutes exceedingly well, and I should start wrapping things up. So I hope that was informative. This is a video on third-person control systems and a little bit of scaling, and also some answers about where we're going with Game Guru in the future and our present progress with performance and our DirectX 11 implementation. So thanks for listening to me whitter on. I will be here next week, next Wednesday at 4 PM British Summer Time, and hopefully my stream will be just as interesting. If you want to know something very specific, there's actually a thread you can go to. Just go to the main Game Guru website, go to the forum. You'll find a sticker at the top of the main board which has the word Twitch in the title. Just click that, and then you can type out a suggestion what you'd like to know about next week or the weeks to come, and I'll be very happy to include it in the next broadcast. So until the next broadcast, I'd like to say thank you one more time, and I'll see you again next week. Bye!